All right, everyone, welcome back to the Prism Podcast. Today we have Salaun, who is a dear friend. I met her back when I was 22, 23 years old in a personal development course that we went through together. We talk all about it in the episode. And Salaun is a PR and marketing consultant and agency owner. And she also has a podcast called AMPLIFY Podcast. Go check it out. She is a unicorn. She is a boss ass biatch. Okay. She is literally, in the last 5 years since I met her, she has flourished into one of the most powerful women I have ever seen online, in the online space. She owns her authenticity. She dives into divine feminine embodiment. We dive into different energetics, how to be more confident, how to be more authentic, to really express ourselves. What do we need to do? We dive into everything in this episode. And she, especially from a business perspective, I respect her so much because, again, she does show up transparently and authentically. She doesn't hide anything about who she is. And you can feel that when you go to her page and when you meet her in real life. She's just so true to who she is. But even as a business owner, she provides so much incredible, tangible value that you guys will take away, just even how to structure your days, how she runs her business, how she's become successful, that I know you guys are going to benefit from. So I'm so excited for this episode and to introduce you guys to Salaun.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the podcast. And I have one of the most alive, beautiful, inside and out unicorn human beings on the planet. And ever since I've met Lauren, which was 5 years ago now, which is insane.
Right? Crazy.
You've always just been one of these people that I look up to so much as a woman, of what's possible in the masculine and the feminine and embodiment and drive, also, stepping into being a badass bitch. And so I cannot wait to have you on the podcast. We met actually through a personal development program 5 years ago, where we really got to dive into our shit in the same room with about 60 or 70 other people.
Yeah.
Watching you since then grow and just transform, again, it motivates me every single day. So I want to start with you introducing yourself and really just sharing with the audience, who you are, where you came from, and how you came to be this amazing individual.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I'm super happy to be here. And fun fact for everyone listening in, Sid and I have been scheduling this interview for 6 months. I swear. We're like, oh shit, I'm out of the country. Oh crap, I'm going to be on a plane. And now this, and now that. You know what? We got stuff going on. So I'm super happy to be here. And I just, I love doing podcast interviews. I have my own podcast, love having people on. And when your love language is one of them is words of affirmation, I'm just the podcast intros. I'm oh, thank you. I'm going to cry.
Totally.
So anyway, a bit about me, and thank you so much for those sweet words. My name is Salaun, and gosh, my journey, the cliff notes, I guess. I basically burnt out PR professional. I left the last PR agency I was working for in 2014, which is feels like 100 years ago at this point, right? But that's almost 10 years ago. That's crazy. I don't feel like I'm old enough to have had my own business for 10 years, but here we are, right? So burnt out PR professional was working for an agency that specialized in crisis PR for the healthcare industry. And that was not my dream industry to work in. And I was there for about four years and was working 60 to 80 hours a week. It was incredibly high stress. That agency was growing really fast. So when I joined, we had I would think I was the 7th employee hired. And by the time I left 4 years later, we had 2 offices and about 40 employees. And we're in the process of being acquired by another agency. And so massive growth. And with that came a lot of growing pains, if you will. And just for me, like I said, working 60 to 80 hours a week, it wasn't the kind of work that I wanted to be doing. The healthcare industry, not really what's lighting me up at the end of the day. Learning more about Learning more about insurance policies and like that kind of stuff. No, right? And so I finally, like, I got to the point where I was so burnt out, like having anxiety attacks in the bathroom, like it just was not a good situation, and decided to leave for two big reasons: to do work that was more in alignment, that I was more lit up by. Wasn't exactly sure what that would be, because I'm like, I don't have time to have passions or hobbies or other interests. I work all the fucking time, right? Like, what are you talking about? I don't know what I want. Not this, right? And so that doing work that was more in alignment, more exciting to me, and then also to have more freedom, flexibility, and control over how I work, when I work, who I work with, what I work on, all that kind of stuff. And so I went into doing like PR and social media consulting and marketing consulting. And today, and then I'll kind of fill in some of the gaps. Today, I have my own PR agency, and we now specialize in what I call traditional PR and new PR. So traditional PR being like getting people into publications, TV, print, speaking gigs, that kind of stuff. And then new PR, podcast tours, influencer campaigns, though I'm not doing as many of those, but a lot in the podcast space. And working with a lot of personal brands and a lot of female entrepreneurs, actually, not exclusively, but a lot of female personal brands, entrepreneurs in the wellness space, fitness space, personal development space, like self-help, spiritual, like all that, which is delicious. And I'm obsessed with my clients. But along the way, of course, right, like when I first started my business, it looked so many, like I did way too many things, right? As I'm like, I can do that. Sure, I can do that. And I'm like, I'll figure it out. I don't know. Like, totally. And about 6 months into my own business, I realized that I was still very much working as an employee, like letting clients call me at like 10 p.m., like having no boundaries, all that kind of stuff. And fun fact about like how we met, actually, I ended up seeing like, oh shit, like back when I was working for somebody else, like I could blame the agency, my bosses, our clients, whatever, right? But then I was like, oh, but I'm the boss and I'm feeling a lot of similar things. Like not all, like definitely lots of improvements, but I was like, oh boy, I'm like, I'm the problem, right? And so that was a big reason why I went into that program where we met, because I was like, oh shit, it's not about what I'm doing. It's not like a new strategy, a system I need to learn. I'm like, I need to rewire my insides, like, and how I'm just like operating as a human. But as I was saying, about 6 months in, I ended up jumping into Isagenix as well, actually, and accidentally built a wellness brand business with Isagenix. So did network marketing for a few years. And also then because I was diving into that and growing that business, started doing online training, health coaching, and like did some fitness modeling, competitions, all that kind of stuff, and stopped doing fitness as a business in 2020, actually. And so today I have my PR agency. For the past year, I've also stepped into women's coaching, but more like life coaching, embodiment coaching, a lot of work around energetics, emotional intelligence, mindset, self-expression, all that kind of stuff, with a big focus on like masculine and feminine energy balance and those kinds of things. So I do a lot with women around just embodiment work, femininity, self-expression, as a former like woman who was a workaholic, stuck in her masculine, all that kind of stuff. And I also work with men as well, work with a lot of men in emotional intelligence work too. So that's where we are now.
You're like just a little of everything.
A little bit of everything.
I really want to get into all of the masculine, feminine energies.
Yeah.
I think that's so interesting to me, but I want to dive into the PR first, because I'm like, I want to get it out of the way so we can dive in, but it is something I want to talk about, because the idea of PR for myself is still a little abstract. Like I know what it is, but I'm like, how does a young woman become a professional in the PR space? And I think more the question is relating to, if someone is, they have their business and they're wanting to kind of act as their own PR agent,
Yes.
what are some things that they can do to get their name out, to get their brand out? Like, what does a PR agency come in and do that either if people want to hire you, they can, or if they want to take a few of those things and implement them in their set themselves, what would those things be?
Absolutely. So I'm going to plug myself for
please do.
Real quick. My agency's Instagram is influence+IMPACT. It's just, our handle is just influence+IMPACT. And I've got tons of free resources on there for getting started. But then I also have a program, the PR Accelerator, which I used to run live. I don't anymore. That's literally teaches like solo entrepreneurs how to do their own PR, like all that kind of stuff really efficiently and effectively. But to answer that, like, so what PR is, because so many people think that, are like, I know what it is, but I also like don't completely, and I don't get it. It kind like, oh, I don't know, right? And so basically, PR is, if you think about advertising as being like advertising and marketing, you telling your potential clients, customers, like what it is you do, why they should work with you, all of that, right? That is marketing. PR is tapping into third-party sources so that they can tell their audiences how amazing you are, or leveraging a third-party source to get more credibility or more visibility, tap into a new audience. So for example, if I was talking about this stuff on my, like I did an Instagram live and I'm just talking about what we're talking about right now, right? That's a marketing activity, right? But having this conversation with you on your podcast, you and your show, you are the third party outlet, right? And so the way PR kind of works, it's there's a quote, it's not my quote, but that advertising is telling people you're good, PR is other people telling people you're good. Something to that effect. That's not exactly it. But basically, right, like your audience, your listeners, they trust you. You have built a relationship with them, that you have credibility with your audience, all of that. And they know like, hey, like if they're listening to your show, they're like, oh, I know that I'm going to like get something out of this. I know that Sid's guests are going to be awesome, whatever it is. And so because of that, I get to tap into, by me being on the show right now, right? I get to tap into some of that trust, credibility, everything that you have worked really hard to develop. And that gets applied to me just by you having me on the show, because your audience, right? Like what's going on kind of subconsciously is they're thinking, oh, well, Sid always has great content, whatever that is, like then this guest probably is somebody to consider or give a listen to, right? Now that doesn't mean that like I get to run with that forever. It's my job that like warms things up and gets me in the door with the audience, but then it's my job, of course, to deliver value, all of that. But PR is a way to, it serves a lot of purposes. Visibility, credibility, authority, all of that, but it also allows you to step into a new audience already warmed up. Right? So I'm not stepping in. Yes, like it's a brand new audience to me, but I'm also not stepping in completely cold because of that third party relationship. So PR creates a lot of leverage, and a few misconceptions. People think you need a certain audience size. Not true. That you need to like, oh, I have to be this many years in business or have this much in revenue or whatever. Also not true. So really basic for like PR looks a lot of different ways. The key thing is that third party factor and like social proof, right? So other people vouching for how amazing you are. And that can be like that can be a screenshot of a conversation with a client, right? Of them being like, oh my gosh, today's session was so amazing. Thank you so much for the support, right? That's a really small thing, but that isn't you saying, hey, I had a great call with my client and I am amazing. It's someone else being like, hey, you are amazing. And then sharing that with others, right? Podcast interviews, articles, IG lives, like speaking, all that kind of stuff, all different forms of PR. And so one of the simplest things is testimonials, right? Like getting testimonials from clients, referrals from clients. If you have products, right? Reviews, I mean, I shop on Amazon based off of reviews, right? I look at reviews, absolutely. So like it's that social proof and that third party validation factor. And honestly, PR is something you should in some way factor in from day one, right? Yeah. So like we do a lot of podcast tours for our clients, getting our clients on other people's shows. And like, that's something you can do in the beginning. Like, get your message out there to as many ears, eyes, whatever as possible.
I love that. And I think it's such a good use of financial resources to invest in that, because so many people, if they're running a business, whether it be small or large, it's actually PR is just, it's allowing you to open up your bandwidth to promote yourself. Because I know for myself, I'm like, oftentimes I'm like, I don't even have time to promote the stuff I'm doing because I'm so busy doing the stuff. And I'm like, just to be able to have someone who is a spokesperson for you is incredible. So for like, let's talk about your program, for example, and people can go look this up, but just so people get a sense, like, what are some of the deliverables that they could expect to learn in the program that you have available?
Yeah. So the PR Accelerator, it originally was a 16-week program. So that's I know. Like, and like, I'm so funny
live.
Live. And I'm so funny with like how I work. 'Cause I'm such like I like to move fast, and I like to change what I'm doing like every 6 months. Like that's why we work for ourselves. Right.
Exactly.
And so I was just like, I'm not really excited about running this program anymore.
I'm done.
And so exactly. I'm like, that was a very profitable program. I'm like, whatever, so it's available evergreen now. So go at your own pace. And some of the things so many things, how to build your outreach list, where to find contacts. We have resources for, like sites and resources for where to find, journalists who are looking for experts. You learn how to craft pitches, learn how to send follow-up messages, a system for doing all of that, because there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of details and like small details to stay on top of when it comes to doing PR. And so like how to do that in an efficient, effective, like not crazy time consuming way. I've got tons of pitch templates. There are trainings on how to pitch for TV, for magazines, for online publications, podcasts, live collabs, how to like craft a free masterclass or webinar in a really effective way. Like even like slide templates for that. Yeah. There's so much. It's so much in there.
That's okay. I'm like, I'm going to go buy that, I think. 'Cause I'm the same. I like to learn things. I just enrolled in like a course and I get done with it in like a week. I'm like, I need something new. Yeah. This is amazing.
Content calendars, launch calendars, all that kind of stuff. And, what was I going to say as well with it? I'm forgetting. And one of the cool things when I was doing it live, I would have experts come on who were professionals in the media space in some way. So journalists, like event hosts, news anchors, and people like my students were able to pitch to them directly on our calls and secure lots of opportunities that way. And so while obviously that's not an option because it's not live anymore, you don't get to meet them quote unquote face to face, but those calls, like those recordings are still available. And so you get to learn directly from these like big podcast hosts, like what exactly do they look for and what kind of pitches do they like, all of that.
Incredible.
Thank you. I'm forgetting one more thing. What was I gonna, I don't remember, but yeah, there's a lot of, I remember it. And I've had a lot of people go through the program, so that they could train their in-house person. So I had a lot of people that like, the assistant to somebody, right? Go through the program to learn how to do it for their business, right? For the company that they work for. So it's a great training resource too. If you're like, I don't want to be the one to do this. I think I should be doing this, but like, hey, my assistant's going to take the course and learn how to do it for me.
That's so smart. That's so smart. Okay, I love this. So with this in mind, you always bring so much value to my life. I'm just so grateful. Just the way you do life makes sense to me. I'm like, just how you function. And with that being said, I want to ask you, you are like one of the most highly productive people. And I remember a few years ago when we chatted, I think 2020, you said like, you're really strict with your time now. From like 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, you're like usually done working. I don't know if that's still true because whatever, but I would love to hear how, or I guess in what way do you function in your life that creates such a level of productivity that you can still have a balance, because you've had both. And I want to hear what you do as an entrepreneur, because I love working and it's hard to check out, but I'm like, I need to be really productive in the time that I do have.
Absolutely. So many things went into this. So yeah, I used to be a massive workaholic. I would work, like rarely even take the weekends off, that sort of thing, or like half day on the weekends. I would had such a hard time unplugging and having a clear end to the workday. And like that like way of operating, like real talk, everybody, like it's not necessarily about the amount of work that's being done. It's an internal thing that's going on, right? With where we're finding our worthiness and everything like that. And so I did a lot of work around my relationship with my self-worth and disconnecting that from how hard I was working, how much I was working, how productive I was being, all of that, right? And so I did a lot of the internal work to be able to then like restructure my time and everything. But I would say I probably don't work more than 20 hours a week, maybe 30 hours a week. I don't really even know. Like today, like I started working today at like 12:30. like I don't know, and once the sun goes down, it's very hard for me to keep going.
Real hard to keep going.
I'm in the middle of something. Oh well, sun's down, slams computer shut, right? Like, sometimes effective, sometimes not. So how I structure things. So like I said, a lot of internal work and healing around my relationship with time, relationship with money, all of that. And when I really started working on that stuff, like things fell into place more and the money started happening a lot easier. And I was like, oh shit, I'm not actually doing things differently, but I'm like being a different human in the doing. But as far as like the practical time management sort of things, a few things. One, getting really clear on what my goals are, right? And then also getting really clear on what the activities are that are going to create the results that I want. And then staying focused on those things. Because I am somebody who could be like, oh, here's the 2 things that need to get done for the day. Well, why don't I create a whole fuck ton of other shit to do today too? I'm being productive. Look at everything that I'm doing and creating. And I'm like, but did I do the 2 things that actually were required of me today?
Exactly. Or everything else.
Right? Did I save them until 9 p.m.? Until I'm like, oh, now I'm too tired. I can't. I'll just do them tomorrow. I'm like, what is this shit? I'm like, so getting really clear, right? Getting really clear on like, what is actually going to move the needle forward, and doing those damn things, right? And doing them first. And if you don't want to do them, hire somebody to do them, right? It's like, you can find a VA for like $10 an hour. Get someone else to do the shit you don't want to do, right? But like, whatever those needle moving things are, those income generating activities are, get clear on those and do them, and don't add a bunch of extra bullshit, right? That feels like being productive, but it's actually procrastinating. Like, right? You can procrastinate by being productive on shit that's unimportant, right? And you're like, I did so much today, and then you're like, but I accomplished nothing. Yes. What did I actually, why, right? So it's like
100%. But it's the clarity, because most people, when they go into their day, they don't actually have clarity at the end of the what they want in their life.
Yes. And so also with that too, being proactive instead of reactive, right? And so, yes, being very clear on the vision, like where do I want to be? And then knowing how to fill in, like to reverse engineer that, right? And so that was something, like getting really honest with myself and seeing those patterns of like, what the hell, right? Yes. Like this is unnecessary, and I'm just avoiding the shit that actually needs to happen, right? Yes. And then I also I got really clear on what my ideal schedule was, and I started to like little by little put boundaries in place for that, right? Like I don't take calls before 11 a.m. Pacific time. Rarely do I do that. And so that was like, okay, that's what it's going to be. I don't take outside calls on Mondays now. I don't set up recurring calls or meetings on Fridays, because Mondays, I like to have internal check-in with my team, all that kind of stuff. Fridays, I want the option to not do anything on Fridays, right? Or take a 3-day weekend, 4-day, whatever it is. And so I got really clear on what my ideal schedule was. And then, so it's like, there's a lot of like productivity math, right? Like, what are the goals? Reverse engineer. Okay, cool. Then looking at what does my ideal schedule look like and what's the time I have available. Great. Now the action items that I know need to get done to accomplish the goals, how do those fit into my ideal schedule? Awesome. And then I also set up my week and my days with like masculine energy, feminine energy balance in mind. So masculine, and just like a real quickie on that, masculine energy is our like very linear, logical, analytical, like a lot of our managing kind of like CEO activities. It's going to be more task oriented, right? Like often like quicker things, like more your to-do list stuff. And so like Monday's a very masculine heavy day. I'm checking in with my team. I'm looking at like where are all our clients, projects, delegating, all that kind of stuff. Feminine energy days are going to be have more creativity, are going to be more flexibility, less things on the to-do list. I'll give myself more opportunity to go deeper with projects and be more in flow and able to be like just have more spaciousness. Stuff still getting accomplished, but in a different way. And so before I was trying to have like, I was having masculine activities and feminine energy activities in the same day, and it's hard for our brains to switch that way, right? And so when you're in the zone, like delegating, crossing shit off the list, all that, it's a lot easier to stay in that energy instead of being like, oh, my next time block is up, and now in 5 minutes I have to be creative. Yeah, I have to be creative in 5 minutes, but I'm really like jamming away on crossing shit off the list, right? And so restructure my time with that. And I mean, like, I don't do the post-it method quite as much. I did yesterday. But I typically, and this was really helpful, I would write down everything that I wanted to accomplish in a day on like a 2-inch by 2-inch post-it. And if I was trying to do more than could fit on that post-it, I was trying to do too much.
So good.
Right? Yeah.
That's so good. Okay, this is everything. My no, it really is my question, because I know that it is actually a skill set to be able to have extreme clarity. It is a skill set that not a lot of people are willing to work on. And so this is so valuable. And I know that some people will not use this information because they'll be like, but I still don't know what I want. And that is something that you have been, I think that you've really stepped into, is like reducing bullshit goals and getting extreme clarity on what the fuck do I want my life to look like. And if it's not in alignment, remove it. If the relationship is not in alignment, remove it. And I would love if you can talk kind of about how you've stepped into removing the excess and actually finding what you want and not what other people want for you, or not what you think you want for yourself.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good question. I mean, yeah, so figuring out like the should conversation, if you will. Well, I should do this, I should do this, I should do this. How have I really landed on that? I mean, I did a lot of work. So in 2020, like in the same month that the entire world like imploded, right? Like I had my biggest month in business to date. I made more in May 2020 than I had ever made in an entire year, just about. And during that same, like, you know, several week time period, I also decided to end my marriage. I had been married for 5 years with my ex-husband for 10 years. So like a lot happened all in the same very short time frame. And that came like the ending that relationship came from a lot of kind of what you're asking about. Like realizing that was not in alignment, no longer in alignment, and needing that, and that was the best solution for both of us. But and part of the reason why I got into that place in my relationship was because I for a long time had not trusted and not listened to my intuition. And so I was like, well, this is the best relationship I've ever been in. He's a good man and we'll be happy together. So that's it, right? This is the best I'm gonna ever have, sort of thing. Even in dating, like, something felt off and I wasn't listening to that. And so that was such, like, right? Like, I wish I had learned that lesson, to listen to my intuition in a much subtler way, right? And in a way that wasn't as painful for myself and so many other people, right? And that's how I learned that lesson. And so coming out of that relationship, I really learned how to get very in tune with my intuition, with what my gut was saying, with that kind of stuff, and start acting from that place as well. And so when I feel there, like, resistance, and there's a different, like, that doesn't mean that the stuff that's right for you is always going to be easy and rainbows and butterflies, right? There's always going to be struggle. There's going to be struggle and challenges with things, but that allowed me to be able to much more effectively be like, oh, is this what I want, or is this what other people want, or is this what I think I should be wanting? All of that, and be able to check in with myself. And, like, sure, there have been times where I've still, since then, like, oh, I actually, in retrospect, kind of stayed longer in that situation or that project or whatever it was than I would have wanted to, now looking back, right? And so it's refining, but yeah, I would say really getting in tune with my intuition, clearing out the noise, doing a lot of healing so that I could really trust what my body is telling me, what my internal guidance is telling me, so that I feel really confident with my decisions, and so it doesn't really matter what other people are saying or doing, right? Yes. Yeah. And I've had times too where, for this, like, where I've literally, I think it was in, like, there were times in 2020, maybe 20, yeah, I think some stretches in 2021 or 2020, excuse me, where I had my assistant mute every single profile I followed on Instagram, because I could not, I was getting triggered by, like, my friends because I was comparing myself to them. I'm like, yeah, I love you so much, and I am making myself feel like shit looking at your stuff. And so if I can't be disciplined with where my brain is going in consuming your content, I can't look at it anymore, right? So, like, and just being like, oh, well, should I do that? Well, should I do that? Well, they're doing this, and this works for them. Maybe I should try that. Maybe I should try that, right? And so putting blinders on too, is really helpful.
It's, it's something that I think a lot of people in the last few years have been stepping into more, is actually trusting their intuition. I know that that's been a big theme for me. And since 2020, I think that's when I've seen the biggest shift in you, especially in the embodiment space, and owning your self-expression and releasing, quite frankly, like, societal norms and programming that is deeply ingrained in so many of us. And so now moving into more of that world of coaching men and women in embodiment, what has that been like for you? Like, helping people step more into the authentic self, become more confident, like, yeah, just talk about that.
Yeah. Oh, I love it so much, because it's the soul work. Like, where I'm at with my PR business, I love that business. It's my first business, and my position with it now and how I think about it now is much more as CEO, visionary, and as if that is an investment for me. I'm still very hands-on running it, all of that kind of stuff, and, like, have plans to scale it. But that, to me, I'm like, oh, because I think it's very easy and kind of a mistake to like, very much wrap your identity in your business, right? And so, like, if something goes wrong in your business, like, feeling like then you're a failure, right? And as entrepreneurs, I think that can be really hard to separate. And I did not figure that out until, like, honestly, not even that long ago. But looking at that business as, like, oh no, this, like, I'm still in this business, but I am looking at it as if it is a business that I own. It is, right? But, like, as if I am an investor, right? Like who has come in and I am making sure this is profitable, running effectively, all of that. Whereas
that's your zone of genius within that role. And there's nothing more that it needs from you beyond the visionary role.
Yes. And so with my like embodiment work, coaching, all of that kind of stuff, that feels like it is expansion of and much bigger version of me living my purpose, right? And so that is like the heart and soul, purpose, mission, all of that, and came from me doing a lot of that inner work myself. And so what I'm doing in that direction, right? It's a lot of emotional intelligence work, a lot of masculine, feminine energetics, like healing, balancing, like playing with them, all that, and a lot of work around sensuality, sexual energy, sexual expression, all that kind of stuff. Because I used to have a lot of friction when it, and just like a like complicated relationship with myself as a sensual, sexual, whatever being, right? And like knew about that kind of stuff, but also like had a lot of shame around it, and finally was able to do a lot of healing around that and own that side of myself. And so in that side of things, I have clients who it's not just about like sexual, energy and that sort of thing, a lot more on like embodiment, mindset, emotional intelligence, that kind of stuff. But when it comes to working with women, a lot of the programs that I run, it's a lot about those like intuitive gifts, intuition stuff, sexual energy, self-expression, right? Like, the feminine embodiment stuff, because I used to like make myself wrong for those things and see feminine traits as weak, right? Or like, ugh.
It's so true. It's something that I've been really discovering a lot recently as well. And it's really tied to so much shame and guilt. And it's indoctrination, right? It's so deep for so many of us. I guess my question for you with that, my main question for people who are like you or like me, where we're very masculine or have been in the past very masculine, where do people start with being able to step into their sensual side and their sexual side and not feeling wrong for it? Is it just going straight into the healing work? Is it hiring someone to facilitate? Like, what are a few tips and tricks you could give those people?
Yeah, I mean, it like really depends on where someone's at, but I would say is like first doing some self-reflection on where you're at with that stuff and how you're feeling. Because I think when we are too in our masculine, and there's nothing wrong with being in your masculine energy as a woman. We all, men and women, we all have masculine energy and feminine energy. And it's not about, oh, if I'm a woman, I have to be more in my feminine or this much in my feminine, right? It's everyone's balance is unique for them. And it's about finding a balance that works for you and being able to like dance between the two energies and lean into one when it's supportive and the other, right? And so a lot of my clients, that the women that I work with who are really stuck in their masculine, is like, I feel exhausted. I can never take a break. I want to attract more stuff with less effort, become more magnetic, all of that. A lot's around relationships. I work with a lot of women who are high achieving, successful, powerhouse women, and are like, and I don't want to be the fucking CEO in my relationship, right? And so, I don't want to be in my masculine energy in my relationship.
All the fucking time. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And so working on, so that like, where to start exactly is kind of seeing what, like, okay, where am I showing up in my healthy masculine? Where am I showing up in my unhealthy masculine? Where am I showing up in my healthy feminine? And where am I showing up in my unhealthy feminine? Like, right? So noticing, okay, when do I, and healthy / healed, kind of same thing, wounded / unhealthy, same thing. Mm-hmm. So noticing like, oh, when this happens, I default into my wounded feminine. Interesting. Okay, how can I heal that and balance that out? Or where is that coming from? When this happens, I go hard into my masculine. Is being in my masculine in that activity, whatever it is that actually serving me? Or could I be benefited by some more of my feminine energy in this activity, this project, whatever it is? So I think it's a starting place is one, getting in tune with how you are feeling. Like how are you feeling, right? And then also seeing where that's kind of showing up for you.
Totally. Do you feel like there is a misconception? Because I hear this from a lot of really highly successful women. They're like, well, I can't show my body, or I can't do that, be more sexual online because it devalues me as a businesswoman. And that's what I see in you so much, is that you are so owning in your sexual expression online, and never once have I devalued you in my mind as a businesswoman. And so I'm curious of your thoughts on that societal construct, if you think it's true, if you think it's valid, if you think there is any validity in it, or do you think it's just bullshit? Some people will think that, right? Like, and that used to be a big point of tension for me, right? Because especially with doing stuff in the fitness space, which I'm sure you can relate to, is like, oh, well, if I want to go do fitness stuff and fitness modeling and I'm showing my body a lot, then I'm not going to be taken as seriously. And so that was a limiting belief that I had. And then when I was like, oh, well, I'm going to be more just business and stuff. And when I was in that direction, I was like, well, then therefore I can't be sexy, or I can't be like sensual and stuff like that, right? So I felt like I either could pick one or the other, depending on what kind of work it was. And what I've found, like based on my own experience and results, is when I embody all the sides of me, including the sensual, I am more fulfilled, less stress, I make more money, I spend less time working, like all that kind of stuff. And so I do with that, right? Like, yes, some people are going to think that. Absolutely. Some people may be like, oh my gosh, she's talking about sex online. She must be a slut. She must be promiscuous. She must not be that smart. She must, all this kind of stuff. Okay, people might think that. Fuck off then. Like, I don't care. Exactly. Great. Right? And like, I even like I remember somebody, I get this not that often, but like, the last time was like a couple years ago, where people are like, oh, like, you're really smart. I wouldn't think that looking at you. And I'm like, shut up. What? Because you can't be classic like bullshit,
pretty and smart, right? Like, what are you talking about? And
I'm like,
and so
what
for
is
that,
this, 1940? Like, what are we?
I know. I'm
about?
Like, what? And so I think for that, it's like knowing what your boundaries are with it, and what feels in integrity and in alignment for you, realizing that it will trigger other people. When we show up in our fullest expression, it will trigger other people for whatever reason, right? Not your problem. Yep. And so acting in alignment for yourself. And what I've found is that like super raw authenticity is really magnetic, right? People appreciate that. And for me, and obviously, like if I'm doing more work on feminine embodiment and sensuality, sexual expression, sexual energy, that kind of stuff, like my content is going to have more of those themes, right? And so I am okay, like, and so people get super triggered by that, and they're like, ugh, I can't follow you anymore. I'm like, great, then you're not the kind of person that I am creating this content for, right? And similarly with like, if me saying fuck, like makes you not want to hire me or think I'm not professional, great. Glad we learned that now, because if we got on a client call and I was dropping F-bombs, it wouldn't work, right? Like, totally. And where some people are like, oh, I swear in my real life, but I'm not going to swear on social media. Cool, that's fine, right? That's not how I choose to do things, but if that's what someone else does, great, right? So I think, one, it does exist. And like, people will think that it does exist. And you decide like, okay, are you okay with people thinking that about you? Are you okay with losing those people as potential followers, customers, whatever it is, right? And then move accordingly. What was it? Oh my gosh, I just forgot I have a lot of, it's funny because some of my male friends, because I'll talk about like, I talk about like sexual energy and femininity and stuff like that. And so some of my male friends will like, we'll chit chat in the DMs and stuff, and like very respectful and that sort of thing. They're like, I can only imagine like the crazy DMs you probably get from like gross dudes and stuff, like da da da. And I'm like, I actually don't.
You don't attract that energy. You're not putting out that energy.
I rarely get skeezy people in the DMs. I rarely get haters, that sort of thing. Like, yeah. At least on Instagram, right? Like TikTok content, for one, I'm a little spicier on TikTok, and the TikTok audience is just like a whole different kind of world.
Totally.
There's a lot more.
Those Gen Zers are crazy, man.
But not even Gen Zers. I feel like I'm like, who is this 50-year-old man telling me, lecturing me right now, or like offering his unsolicited opinion? Like, fuck off, bro. Like, it's just like TikTok's wild. But like, I do not get haters. I do not get like guys sliding into the DMs being inappropriate, stuff like that. Sure, like fans, compliments, like marriage proposals, those sorts of things. But like, I think part of that is, one, like you said, like I'm not, something about my energy, because I don't necessarily say it, right? But like something about my energy, I think communicates like that's not acceptable behavior here.
They'll know what they have coming for them if they say that. Yeah.
And I have like my audience who's been with me for a while knows that like if someone is being a fool with me or disrespectful, I will not care to tell them how it is and then be like, all right, we're going to screenshot this and there you go, dumbass, right? Like typically I don't like really engage with bullshit, but like every once in a while I'm like, it's
a little fun.
Don't come into my house and shit everywhere, because I'll play with you.
I am so obsessed with you. No, and it was funny. I was gonna ask like, what is your, the number one thing you would say to be magnetic? But I think I already know the answer, and it's be in congruency and be in alignment with who you really are. And I think that I mean maybe it's a different answer, but that seems like a through line for you, where it's like it's just you show up as exactly who you are always in every moment, and that's trust, and that's beauty, and that's love. And I just
thank you.
It's such a good role model for people.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much, and I received that. Thank you. I would say it's alignment and authenticity.
It's so true, and that's what you are, and that's what you represent in so many ways. I don't want to keep you too much longer. What are you most excited for in your life right now? And because you like to change things up so much, and I'm always just curious, what do you think will be next when you're tired of everything you're currently doing and you're wanting to move on to the next thing? What's next?
Okay. What am I excited about in my life right now? I love my cute little house in LA during winter time with my Christmas. It's like such a cozy vibe. So like, I'm just like excited about being home. I've traveled once or twice a month, like flown this entire year. So I haven't stayed like in my home, I think, more than like 6 weeks. Not even this year. I haven't stayed in one place longer than 8 weeks since May 2020.
That sounds like my life. Yep. I hear
that. Which I'm like.
Hence why it took us 6 months to get this podcast.
Exactly. And so like, I'm excited about just like being home and plugged in. I do like, I have holiday travel and stuff like that, but like I'm excited about just like being here and living my life, which is so simple and basic. I am in the place where I'm like ready for like my forever person and amazing babies and all that kind of stuff. And so like, I'm excited about that because I feel like it's very like,
I'm like, if you're listening and you're a good prospect,
and I'm like, hey, slide into the DMs. Don't be weird, or be weird, but like in a cool way.
But in a cool way.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really excited about a lot of the new stuff that will be coming in 2023. I feel like this year did not go like at all how I thought it would, in some like insane ways, some not fun ways, some amazing ways. Like it was just like a wild ride this year. And like, you know, of course, with like emotional, I'm like, and it all happened for me, and it was all necessary for the person I'm supposed to be, right? I'm like, let me gaslight myself with emotional intelligence. But for 2023, things I'm really excited about, I am going to be launching a product company. I already have a few products, just like fun merch and stuff like that, hats, sweatshirts, like sweats, that sort of thing, which has just been kind of like a fun, like little side thing to create.
On top of everything else you're not doing.
Right? Why not? Yeah. I started a real estate investment business this year. That's a whole nother thing, right? Like what? So I'm really excited about that, like leaning into e-commerce more. And I'm also going to create I have a like low ticket monthly membership for women, Club Big Queen Energy. I also have a handful of programs on, like I said, like on intuition, sexual energy, that kind of stuff. And so I'll be doing more of those, but I'm also going to create like a year long, possibly either 6 months or a year long, like much more deep dive, long term, like divine feminine embodiment program. Amazing. So I'm really excited about that. The divine feminine embodiment program and e-commerce business.
Amazing.
And and babies. I don't know. We'll see.
And I mean, you could be like married with kids by this time next year. Maybe we'll do a follow-up episode in about a year.
Let's see. Speak it into existence.
Is the best place for people to find you your website? Is it Instagram? What do you recommend for people to find you? Because I know everybody's going to be like running through your stuff.
I hope so. Yeah, you guys come say hi. Instagram. So Lauren Salaun. Yep.
I'll put it in
Instagram is where I hang out the most.
Lauren, I love you so much. Thank you.
I love you too. This was
Thank you
fun.
so much for your time. Just always talking to you. It's like, you're just such a great mirror, right? You reflect back so much of who I am and vice versa. And you're such a beautiful person, but I just feel like I can shoot the shit with you for hours at a time.
I know. I'm like, now we need to have a much bigger catch up, you and me.
We will. It'll only take us another 6 months to get it booked.
No.
I love you so much, you guys. Go find Lauren on Instagram. I'll post all of her stuff in the show notes, but thank you so much again, Lauren, for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.